All right. Shalawama. Shalawama. Islam to all the Moors. I'm Dr. Yasapa back. This is the free astrotheology course. All right. Our textbook, primary textbook, is The Devil's Pulpit. The author is the Reverend Robert Taylor. All right. So we have two supplementary textbooks too, y'all. The Diegesis and the Tetrabiblios. We'll be getting into them soon. But for right now, let's make it do what it do. Let's get back to raising the devil. All right, raising the devil. I bet some of y'all hear that title, y'all scared. Getting spooked out. All right, give me 1 second. Oh man. We are on page 60. Page 60, 68, the last paragraph on page 68. Nope. Actually, hold on, y'all. Uh-oh, hold on. Put my phone on silent. Give me 1 second here. All right. This is a very long paragraph on page 68, and I don't remember where we stopped at. But I do remember we talked about Paul's pride. Well, anyway, let's just begin on page 67, the bottom paragraph, so that way we have everything in the video. All right. So, by the way, I'm Dr. Yasapa from Zion Law School. I almost forgot to say thank you to everybody who's bought my books. Much appreciated. And a big special thanks to those of you who are supporting or have supported my project to write the Book of the Law in Ancient Ibaryath and Modern English to show you what the etymological meaning of every word is, the grammar, and then, by the way, the etymological meaning from more than one source. Okay, so it'll be from more than one source. It'll be similar to the format that you see in the purple books, the Deuteronomy 28 volumes, and then Phoenician Hebrew 101, which is the Ten Commandments. So it'll have a similar format to that, so you can do comparative analysis. All right. So thanks everybody for that, and of course I will restore the astronomy and astrology that's hidden from you in English, and the natural law and constitutional principles. All of that I'm going to restore. If you want to know more about that, look in the description area of this video, okay, y'all? And you can find out more. But in the description, that's not a complete list. That's just something to get you started with having a knowledge of what's going to be in the book, okay? Again, the Book of the Law is a science book. It is not supposed to be a religious book, but it was converted into a religious book. And how do we know it? Jeremiah chapter 8, verse 8. All right, let's begin. I entered thus in medias res, into the midst of the subject at once. In the middle of the subject at once, because so does the text I treat. So it enters into the middle, right into the middle of the subject. Where you should observe a fact which shall never escape your critical remembrance. So critical remembering is also a form of thinking, right? That the devil, where he was first mentioned in the New Testament, all right, so we're talking about Satan the devil in the New Testament, the first time he was mentioned, for he is never once mentioned by that name. So he's never mentioned once by the name of the devil in the singular number in the Old. Okay, so the word devil, referring to the devil, in the New Testament, you won't see that word devil in the Old Testament. Okay? So again, in the singular number, okay, so that would be one, in the Old is introduced to us as an absolutely old acquaintance with the familiarity as gross, as if the evangelist had calculated the idea of the devil would come as natural to us as folly to a fool. So remember in Job, the devil goes into the heavens and he actually speaks to the Most High. So they knew each other. That's his point. They knew each other. As if we should not be astonished, should not want to know who the devil was. Well, yeah, of course, right? If the devil is talking to the Most High is talking to the devil, well, yeah, you should at least be a little curious, right? Who is this fellow? He gets to go up in the heavens and talk directly with the Most High. You cannot talk directly with the Most High, right? All right, so anyway, let's continue. But be ready at once to accost him as our country cousin with an aha, now D, yes, do devil, you come to town. Okay, so a long family member, friend you haven't seen for a long time shows up to town. He's not somebody new, right? You've known him for a long time. So the author is being sarcastic. And don't get tired out or frustrated with this old time English, okay? Let's just muddle through it and we'll make our way through it. How did ye leave our friends in the low country? Right? The devil said he was roving about in the earth. The heaven is higher, so the earth is lower than the heavens. Okay, so how did you leave our friends in the lower countries? Okay. Or, as if the devil himself needed no further introduction to us, then at once to bounce in upon us like Paul prayed, with his, I hope I don't intrude. Okay, so Paul prayed was brought to, I hope I don't intrude, no, ye not me, not to know me, argues yourself unknown. So I think it was Roro who brought to our attention that Paul Pry was like a caricature or like a jest or comedian around the 1830s. Okay, that's who Paul Pry is. If I can find a picture of him, I'll post a picture so y'all can see who he is or who the character is, rather, what the character looked like. Okay, a proof of this, then, which imagination could conceive no clearer, that the gospel has no claim to be called a revelation. Okay, y'all hear that? The gospel is not revealing anything new. Now that should be surprising, right? Because according to Christians, the Gospels reveal a whole new thing that our ancestors didn't know, depending on what your doctrine is, right? But the author here is telling us that there's nothing new, nothing new being revealed in the Gospels. So he needs to prove that, right? So he needs to show us evidence, and of course, our role, you and me, our role is to make a determination as to whether or not his evidence is beyond reasonable doubt. If it's beyond reasonable doubt, that's our standard, we will accept it as true. If it's not, then we will reject it. Okay, we will reject it. We'll consider it either insufficient evidence or what? False. But that's your decision. Everybody has to make their own decision. Okay, it's your life, so you need to make your own decision. You're responsible for your heirs. So that's your decision to make. Don't put it off on somebody else. All right, let's continue. Or as if the devil himself needed no further introduction. I already read that. A proof of this, that there is, okay, we already read that. Okay, so we're in the middle of the page. That it has no character of originality, that is, that the gospel has no character of originality. That means there's nothing new being revealed. It is not original. It's a copy. That's the point. It's a copy. No feature of anything that was new to the ideas of men. So y'all already should know where this is going, right? Take a guess where this is going. You should know that the gospel was not written, and by no possibility could have been written, till as many ages as you please, after all the follies and superstitions of which it treats were deeply and ineradicably rooted in man's mind, and their parents had thoroughly played the devil with them. So what is this telling us? What did he just tell us there? Well, he's saying that the Gospels were written in more modern times. That's what he's saying. The Gospels are modern works. They were written in modern times. They're not 2,000 years old, as you've been taught, or even 1,500 years old, or whatever the scholars are saying. Okay, y'all? Well, of course, he needs to show us the beef, right? Show us the evidence. Where are we? Oh, here we go. Okay, so till as many ages as you please, after all the follies and superstitions of which it treats. Okay, the follies and superstitions. Okay, so the fairy tales, the incredible stories for which it treats, that it deals with, that it talks about, okay, were deeply rooted in men's mind. They're old enough. Everybody knew these stories, y'all. Everybody knew the stories. Now, why would they do that? Well, they reworked stories that everyone knew so that when the hearer would hear the story, they would more readily or more easily accept it. They would accept the gospel stories more rapidly because they heard the stories before. Oh, that sounds like right? Oh, that sounds like this story. That sounds like that story. So they accept it faster, okay? So that's why they did these old stories, okay? So that people would accept them and accept them faster. That's why they used them. Okay, now let's continue. Oh, I'm sorry, y'all. I'm tired. I lost my place again. Okay. And their priest, that's the gospel priest, the dark priesthood, and others had thoroughly played the devil with these stories. Well, the devil is the opposer, right? The devil is supposed to be all things wicked. Okay, so we're dealing with corporations. Corporations tend to want to consolidate power, create hierarchies, right? And then Pisces, Christianity is the fish. Pisces, and duplicity, dualism, intentional deceit. So put that all together, and you get a priestly class who's going to use corporations or corporate entities to rob everybody of their wealth and to make them employees of the company, or what? Bond people, bond men and bond women. And they would use primarily stories, edited stories, in the church or in the church, depending on where you're from. Okay? And that's how they would do it. So the church would push the gospel stories, and they know that these stories are lies, and they know that these stories are ancient stories that have been edited, reworked. So yeah, they're devils, right? Lower self beings. They're behaving as lower self beings. So everybody sees what's happening here. That's the author's point. Now, let's continue. They are intentionally deceiving the people they have a duty or a fiduciary responsibility to help, right? So they're already, committing fraud, right? They're misrepresenting the facts, and their congregation, they have a right to know. Why? Because every month they give a tithe. Every month the priest takes a drachma coin, or the apostle, whoever y'all titles are. Y'all take a drachma coin, sometimes 2, sometimes 3, out of each fish, out of each congregation member mouth. All right? So that's fraud. And you're doing it, allegedly, or so the story goes, you're doing it because that's part of the contract. So that means the contract is void from the beginning. Unenforceable. Why? Because it's fraudulent. Talking about the New Testament. It's a void contract from the start due to fraud. And they don't have any authority. So they don't have jurisdiction, lack of jurisdiction. But anyway, let's keep going, see where the author is taking us here. It says, faith may dream what it will of the originality of these writings. Yeah, okay, so you believe that the Gospels are real. Why? Because your pastor said so, or because your organization, your religious organization said so in their book. All right? Their books say that these stories are real. Okay, so you trust them. You have faith in them. Okay? So you can, okay, if that's what you want to do. But this is internal evidence that they could not possibly be original, written whenever they were. The story was up for. So whenever they said it was original, forget it. If I were to name an evidence stronger than any other of the necessarily demoralizing, depraving, and vitiating tendency of this devilish gossip. Why is it devilish? And here's why. Because the gospel has double meanings or more than one meanings, right? And even where it doesn't, your priestcraft will tell you that a verse means one thing, but it actually means something completely different. They'll tell you that concepts in the Gospels or literary tools in the Gospels have one meaning, but in fact, if you study the verse, it doesn't mean what they have taught you that it means. So they're being intentionally deceitful, duplicity, right? Everybody get it? Okay. Let me find my place here. So here we go. Okay, so talking about if I were to name an evidence stronger than any other of the necessarily demoralizing, depraving, and vitiating tendency of this devilish gossip, right? This intentionally deceitful gossip, I would point to its soul debasing. Okay, debase the soul. If he means the physical body, right? Debase it. Honor killing. Y'all got that? Honor killing influence on the minds of those who call themselves Unitarian Christians. Now what does he mean by honor killing? Does he mean that if you begin to follow the church doctrines or religious doctrines, you become dishonorable? Honor killing, what's the opposite? What's the opposite of honor? That's no honor. So if you kill the honor, there's no honor. So that's dishonor, right? So if you're following the Most High's commandments, following his instructions, which are natural law, you are in honor, you are in your higher self. But if you're following the church doctrine, well, the church doctrines do what? Kill honor by detaching you from nature, putting you in a dishonorable state or condition. Y'all see that? So the dishonorable state is a state of the lower self. Everybody see it? So this is what the gospel does for you. Okay? By definition, when you worship an external deity, you are already in dishonor. Your honor has been killed. By who? You. Because nobody made you do anything. You make your own decisions in this life, and you also pay out of your own pocket or with your own life. Alright? Okay, so the gospel, this devilish gossip, a gospel is soul debasing, honor killing. What are some debased things that people do? Drug addictions, right? all of those things that are of a sexual nature that are disgusting, filthy things, right? You can decide what those things are. Okay? So in the honor-killing influence on the minds of those who call themselves Unitarian Christians and free-thinking Christians, who are all pretending to be Christians still. Don't matter what your denomination is. A Christian is a Christian. A Catholic is a Baptist, is a Lutheran, is a etc. Okay? All the same. Regardless of your doctrine, it's all the same. Okay? All right. So all of them who are for pretending to be Christians still, after finding out that the devil, upon whom the whole Christian doctrine is entirely founded, is a purely imaginary being. So the author is going to show you right now that the devil is not real. And if you still hang on to your Christianity, well, that's very dishonorable. So he must have some really, really strong, convincing evidence to make such a big claim. All right? So let's see if he can prove it. Let's get into it. Let's see if he can prove it. Okay, that in reality there is no devil, that is a big, bold statement. He's got to prove it. A lot of y'all in there shaking in y'all shoes. Thinking about all the dirt you did last night. Or tonight, what you're doing right now, depending on where you're at in the world. Shaking in your shoes, trying to figure out how you're going to get out of it. If you got enough money to give a double tithe, or if you can talk to pastor or pastor's wife to put a good word in for you. More tragic than that, some of y'all may have friends who you have been taught to tell on them if they've been doing some things at your church or hall or Kingdom Hall says are wrong. Okay, and they've taught you through the doctrine that you need to tell on them so that they could be brought before the elder body and disciplined if necessary, right? And a lot of y'all are struggling with whether or not you should do it because you know the consequences of doing such a thing, what the tremendously, the horrific impact it can have on the person's life who you're telling on. So these are very, very sad situations that religious people find themselves in, having to tell on a friend, right? Be a narc. That's what they should say that when I was younger. You tell on your friend you were a narc or you were a what other words did we use? A narc or something like that. I don't remember. That's going back to the 80s and 90s. But anyway, so this religion is no joke. It can really wear and tear at you emotionally, worry you, right? Worry you to death. And I mean that literally, okay? So why is all of this happening? Because of this notion of the devil. The devil is like a roaring lion seeking to devour someone. That's what most people have been taught by religion. But when it turns out, and you're going to see it, that there's no devil at all. It's all made up. They played you. The devil is no more real than Santa Claus. Okay? And his function is just the same, to get you to behave the way they want you to behave, to get you to be good. And what's the gift that you get? You get to avoid going to hell. Right? Santa Claus gives you a gift. Okay, y'all? Anyway, let's continue. Let's see what the author has for us. And there never was any devil. Y'all know if there is no devil, that means that this whole army, this whole host of angels who fell with him, y'all realize that if there's no devil, then that story is not true too, right? Right, y'all? He doesn't have this whole host of other angels who became devils right along with him. Could not, right? Because he never existed. That there never was any, and that all the positive declarations of Scripture that seem to speak of the existence of such a personage are allegorical. So all these scriptures that y'all been taught are talking about the devil are all fairy tales. They're allegorical. It has a different meaning. Metaphors, okay? Metaphorical, anagogical, oratorical, rhapsodical, categorical, and all the other origoricals that mean in plain English, they are downright lies. All right? And keep in mind who taught you those lies. Don't ever forget that. Do not forget. And I'm going to tell you this, don't forgive. Don't forgive those who taught you that lie. But there is no part of the gospel story related with greater appearance of historical truth and narrative simplicity than of this, the temptation of Christ. Oh, so we did cover this. I remember that. The last class, we did cover this. But notice this, y'all. Now, the story of the devil is a downright lie. That means an absolute lie, complete lie. But there is no part of the gospel story related with greater appearance of historical truth. So the biggest lie in the whole gospel story, they related or connected to history more than anything else. Isn't that interesting? So now we see one of their techniques. The biggest lie, they gave it a lot of historical connections. In fact, the biggest lie has the most historical truth associated with it. That tells us something, right? What does it tell us? Those fundamental stories, fundamental beliefs, fundamental people in the Gospels, let's call them the influencers, or the most famous people, the most impactful people. Looking at the example of the devil here, we can extend that or extrapolate it, right? Now it makes perfect sense that JC is not real either, right? What do? The biggest lies, they attach the most history to them. Okay, so remember that technique. Whatever it is you believe most, for example, the devil. According to this technique, it should have the most history attached to it. Okay? So you better question the things that you believe most and the people that you believe most in this gospel. We already uncovered a technique that they use. All right? If it's a big lie, add as much history to it as you can. and it should be more historical proof to support it than the things that may be real. Okay, y'all? So how can anything be real? Well, these are rewrites of astronomical phenomena. So is the sun real? Yes. Is Jesus real? No. So they did what? They put together all of these histories and, secular works about the existence of Jesus. Right? John the Baptist, is he real? No. But look at what Josephus did, creating histories for him. Okay, so y'all see the technique here? Anyway, let's move forward. Dealing now with the temptation of Christ. The pretense then that it occurred, that's the temptation of Christ, occurred only in a vision. That's what they're telling, right? The temptation of Christ happened in a vision. All this appearance of historical truth and narrative simplicity. Narrative simplicity means it's a simple story. Nothing complicated about it, easy to understand, straightforward. Notwithstanding is a pretense that when advanced by men who profess and call themselves Christians, only serves to show what unprincipled and dishonest men their Christianity has made them. And here's why. I hope if any of you who are new, we're going to get into some hypocrisy. All right? So let's continue. For sure, sirs, to maintain that this portion of the gospel was visionary, listen, y'all, if you're going to say that the temptation of the Christ was a vision, while any other part of the gospel was real, so the temptation of the gospel of the Christ was visionary, it was just a vision, but the rest of the gospel is real, is nothing more nor less than to make it historical or visionary at your own will, at your own option. Y'all see that? So you can take any part of the gospel and say, well, this was a vision, it never happened, it's just a vision. Somebody else might come along and say, well, no, the temptation of Christ was not a vision, it happened in real life. That puts us in a position of, well, how do we know what was a vision? Maybe the whole gospel was a vision. Somebody else will come along and say, no, the whole gospel was not a vision. Someone else will come along and say, well, the first 50% of the gospel was a vision. And then the last 50% was real. Somebody else will come along and say, no. The first 50% was real history. And the last 50% was a vision. And that can go, the first 75% was a vision. You see what I mean? Everybody see it? It's arbitrary. If it's arbitrary, why should you believe it? Right? That's an excellent point, in my opinion. Okay? To make of the gospel, for example, a nose out of wax. So imagine if the gospels are wax, you can form it into a nose and mold it in the fashion, and mold it to the fashion of your fancy. You can mold that wax ball called the gospel into a horse, into a chimpanzee. Why? Because you get to decide what's real, what's historical, And what's a vision? So you can make it do whatever you want it to do. You can say whatever it is. Somebody else will have a different opinion, but that's okay, right? Y'all can argue and precept it out. Y'all can precept it out, okay? The Holy Church throughout all the world has ever received the temptation of Christ as real an event, and I am sure it is so as his crucifixion. Now that's an excellent point. So, of course, the Holy Church is the Catholic Church. Who's to say that the crucifixion is not visionary or was not visionary? It's all arbitrary, because you cannot just pick and choose which story is a vision and which story is historical. Because if you are allowed to do that, then we have to take it to the extreme. The whole story is a fairy tale. Otherwise, how can it be any other way? So the crucifixion, instead of being historical, is now a vision. Now, what happened to your salvation, your propitiatory sacrifice? What happened? That was a vision. You say, oh, no, Dr. Yasapa, because Reverend so-and-so or Pastor so-and-so said, no, that was real life, that was historical. I hope you all see that this becomes ridiculous, right? Okay? All right. So let's go back to his crucifixion. And so much more important than that while it requires us to keep but one day's fast in commemoration of Christ's death, so the church, according to their understanding of the Gospels, says that at Christ's death you need to fast one day. What's one? Remember, one is pointing up at the sun, right? One is Y and I. The sun pointing up at the sun, it means yes, or I affirm, okay, or I promise I'm going to do it, right? One. You see the relationship that I'm pointing out? Okay. So you fast for one day to commemorate J.C. the Christ figure's death. Notice this, it enjoins, the Holy Church, based upon their understanding of the Bible, enjoins a 40-day abstinence, that's a 40-day fast, in commemoration of JC's temptation. Now, why is that? It seems like you should fast for 40 days due to Jesus' death, right? To commemorate his death. The death is supposed to be more important than his temptation, but it's the reverse. You fast one day for his death, but then 40 days to commemorate the temptation of Christ. And would have us to expect, that's the Holy Church, the Catholic Church, and would have us to expect our eternal salvation not more from the merit of his precious death and burial. Well, if his death was so precious, why are you only fasting for one day? It seems like his temptation was more important because the people are fasting for 40 days. Okay? Not more from the merit of his precious death and burial, or from his religious resurrection and ascension. That's very interesting too, right? His resurrection. Then from his baptism, fasting, and temptation. That's an excellent point. Excellent point. As in the form of incantation for the first Sunday of Lent, and a lot of y'all are still celebrating Lent, and Good Friday, are these words, quote, O Lord, who for our sakes did fast 40 days and 40 nights, end quote. And, quote, when he fasted 40 days and 40 nights, says our text, he was afterward and hungered. So he was hungry after he fasted for 40 days. Now let me tell y'all something. This is not true. He was not hungry. That's not true. How do I know? That's an downright lie. When you fast, you don't experience hunger. A man does not experience hunger after the 4th or 5th day. Maybe if you're unlucky, the 6th day, depending on your physiology. I did a 45-day fast. No food. I did it recently, maybe a year and a half, 2 years ago. 45-day fast. After the 4th, I think for me it was the 4th day, I had no hunger pain, no headache. By hunger pain, I mean no headache, no symptoms. No stomach growling, no desire to eat. On the 5th day, I had no desire to eat. I used to go to restaurants and just watch the people eat. I felt no desire to eat their food. The amazing thing is that I could smell the food better. My sense of smell was better. My hearing, my sight was better. I had more vivid dreams. My dreams were better. My sleep was better. And I felt no desire to eat. So I know for a fact that that's a lie. Nobody is hungry after fasting. Now, I did a water fast. I don't know if he did a water fast because I don't recall anything in the story that says he drank water or he did not drink water. But I can tell you this. When you do a fast, a long-term fast, you do not feel hungry. There is no hunger. Okay? Now, if anybody else watching this video has ever done a long-term fast, cosign if you had the same experience. But if you didn't, let's say you fasted more than 20 days, or even 10, 15 days, whatever, or even 7 days. Put in the comment section whether or not you felt hungry. If you truly did not eat anything. Now, if you were cheating, and you were eating a little something every now and then, yeah, you would feel hungry. But that would be a very dangerous thing, right? So, I've never thought about that before until now. This is another aspect of the gospel story that is a lie. And after, let me read this. It says, he fasted for 40 days and 40 nights. Says our text, quote unquote, he was afterward and hungered. So on the 40 days and 40 nights, so that means on the 41st day, he felt hungry. No. Absolutely not. Not true. You will not feel hungry. Okay? Let me say it again. This is an outright lie. Fasting, when you end a fast, you do not feel hungry. And more important than that, if you end the fast and you eat, you put your life in jeopardy. You could become seriously ill. You could become seriously ill or even expire. Did y'all know that? A 40-day fast, you feel hungry and you just start eating? Listen, y'all, your digestive tract has shut off. It stopped working it's been on a break. It's been on vacation. Your liver's been on vacation. It's been relaxing at the beach, right? Your large intestine has been relaxing, it also at the beach. Your small intestines, they've been relaxing at the beach. Your gallbladder has been chilling at the beach. Your stomach has been relaxing. See, no need for the stomach juices because there's nothing there to digest. And now you gonna just start eating a whole bunch of food? Come on. Think about it, y'all. You put your life in jeopardy if you come off of a long-term fast wrongly, incorrectly. Okay? But you will not feel hungry ending a long-term fast. All right? I've never made that connection before. I don't know why. Well, I know why, because I don't deal with the Gospels anymore. So I haven't, maybe the last video I did, you remember the Devil's Pulpit I did maybe a year and a half, 2 years ago? Maybe I mentioned it then, but right now I don't recall. I don't know. But anyway, so that's another part of this story that's not true. But sure, that was a miracle that any of us could have beaten. For if you or I had fasted twice as long, so that would be 80 days, we should not have been afterward hungry. We could have kept it up to all eternity. Well, let me tell y'all this. There are people who fasted for 90 days. There's a couple people. I don't know if this is true, y'all, but they stopped eating altogether. And according to them, they're living off of sunlight. And they never feel hungry. I never thought about that. But the author just co-signed what I said. Okay? Let me read it again. For if you or I had fasted twice as long, we should not have been afterward hungry. That's absolutely right, according to science. You won't feel hungry afterward. Okay, we could have kept it up all eternity. Well, let me give my hats off. Give a hats off to this guy. This guy may have been a moron. I see that text in a whole different way now. So today I learned something. Okay, but observe, I pray. Hold on. But observe, I pray, what Christians never observe. The strict letter of the text. In other words, Christians do not consider the literal meaning of text. They don't deal with etymology. And they darn sure don't deal with philology. They don't deal with astronomy and astrology, and they don't deal with history. Okay, those three things are what? The Trinity gospel buster. Okay, to the very letter of it, that is the literal meaning of the text, and we shall see the wonders it involves. Okay, all right. So, quote, then was Jesus led up to the Spirit into the wilderness. Let me repeat that. Quote, then was Jesus led up of the Spirit into the wilderness, end quote. Then, why then? So he wants us to focus our attention on the word then. So why then? There can be no sense in then, but as it has a reference to a when. Okay, y'all got that? So, then was Jesus led up. It means when Jesus was led up. And that when, you will find, was immediately after John the Baptist, whose astronomical characteristics I have lately so fully explained. Okay? Got that? So when was Jesus led up into the wilderness? Again, it reads here, immediately after John the Baptist. Immediately after John the Baptist poured out his water upon him. So now remember, y'all, Jesus, according to the story, the gospel story, John baptizes Jesus in the water, right? Astrologically, Aquarius in the month of January, right? Aquarius is John the Baptist, remember? The author told us that. In January, with a jar of water, pouring the water toward the south into the fish's mouth. Okay, so the fish has a reference to the Jonah being swallowed by the big fish or the whale story. Okay, so keep these things in mind. There can be no sense in then, but as it has a reference to when. And that when, you will find, was immediately after John the Baptist had poured his water upon him. And, quote, lo, the heavens were opened up unto him, end quote. Then, when he had been baptized, when he had been born of water and of the Spirit, when he had the witness of God's Spirit with his Spirit, that he was truly a regenerate person, then and not till then was he full ripe for the devil. Okay, so Jesus gets born again through his baptism, right? So so the author is saying that it's at the point where Jesus is baptized that he is ripe or mature for the devil. Well, what does that mean? Well, let's continue. But keep this in mind, students, scholars. When was Jesus taken up into the wilderness? When? The story says immediately after John the Baptist baptized him. According to the story, astrologically, it's in January when Aquarius pours the jar of water into the big fish's mouth. Okay, now let's keep going. And observe again, my master, that would be the devil, right? Hasn't to go struggling about to fetch his pupils. The Holy Ghost brings his pupils to him. Jesus was led by the Spirit, whether he was led by the hand, like St. Paul, or lugged by the ear, like Ezekiel, or like all other good Christians, led by the nose. The note for our observance is that he, that is Jesus, was led up into the wilderness, and then he's showing the Greek word translated up. So he wants us to focus on up. Why not down? That's a good point. Why didn't he go down into the wilderness? That's a good point. All right, let's continue. Where was this wilderness? That the phrase should always be up into the wilderness, and as St. Mark's Gospel has it, quote unquote, he was with the wild beasts. And what wild beasts were they? See, y'all, this is also ambiguous. Now, y'all know that whenever we are confronted with broad, ambiguous statements, we need to beware, right? As they say, the devil is in the details. We need to beware. Okay? What are they trying to get off on us? Anyway, let's continue. And what wild beasts were they, which were with him up in the wilderness? Now that is interesting, y'all. Why is it up in the wilderness? Okay, because mountains and hills are usually up, right? But anyway, let's continue. Anon. A-N-O-N. Anon. Will I show you the whole menagerie? Quote unquote. And when the tempter came to him, end quote, that is, more astronomically, when he came to the tempter, that is, to my master, that would be the devil, right? He's talking about the devil. For he is a very tempting gentleman, I assure you. My master called on him for something like Christian evidence. Okay? So the devil took him up to the high place and said, show me some evidence. Prove that you're the Son of God. Prove that you are who you say you are. Where's your evidence? And we should all actually get in the habit of making people show us evidence, right? There's nothing wrong with telling somebody, show me the evidence that you are who you say you are, right? That you can do what you say you can do, okay? All right, so show me the evidence. My master called on him for something like Christian evidence and gave him the fairest and most honorable challenge to make good his pretensions. Well, y'all, don't think about the doctrine. Don't think about the mythology of the devil. Is there anything wrong with telling someone to prove it? Right? You say you're the Son of God, prove it. Quote, will God suffer his Son to be hungry? End quote. If thou beest the Son of God, command these stones to be made bread. End quote. Hey y'all, somebody Google search, will God suffer his Son to be hungry? And see what Bible verse, if any, that is, okay? Somebody do that real quickly, all right? Put it in the comment section. If I do it, hold on, I'm going to do it. I may lose a connection. If I lose it, I'll be right back. Let me see if I can do it. No, I can't access my my other apps. Hold on. Be hungry or begging for food. So, particularly in Psalms. It may have been, I don't remember the Psalms, but y'all just type it and you'll see the same scriptures. Google search it, you'll see the same thing I saw. So the author's point here is that the devil was asking a legitimate question. So he wasn't being belligerent or disrespectful. He was asking a legitimate question because that's what it says in the Bible. Right? In the Old Testament. All right? So now let's continue. Anon, I will show you the whole menagerie, quote unquote. And when the tempter came to him, that is, more astronomically, when he came to the tempter, that is, to my master, that would be the devil, right? For he is a very tempting gentleman, I assure you. My master called on him for something like Christian evidence and gave him the fairest and most honorable challenge to make good his pretensions, quote unquote. Will God suffer his son to be hungry? If thou beest the Son of God, command that these stones be made bread, end quote. But he could command no such thing, and so shrinks off. With the Methodist parson text of Scripture, quote unquote, it is written, man shall not live by bread alone, but on every word that proceedeth out of the mouth of Zeus, of God, of Gad, of Odin, of Sirius, etc. All right? So y'all see the story. Now, of course, we've been taught the doctrine about that, right? We've been taught, I don't know what your church teaches about that, but I know what the religion I was in taught about those verses. Okay? All right, now let's continue. So you see, Christians, how soon my master could make your master eat his words. Then the devil taketh him up into the holy city, quote unquote, the holy city. So where is the holy city? Another ambiguous statement or phrase. So where is it? Show me on a map. Tell me something that I can locate this city. Observe ye everything that is holy is devilish. Observe ye everything that is holy is devilish. It belongs to my master. The temple itself is his. Y'all got that? The temple of Israel is the devil's. Woo! Is this blasphemy, y'all? Are we witnessing blasphemy? What's up with that? I bet you some of y'all would even be afraid to even say that. Oh my goodness. He setteth Jesus on a pinnacle of it, and willing to try whether he dared work a disinterested miracle, he saith unto him, quote, if thou be the Son of God, if thou be the son of Zeus, cast thyself down, for it is written, he shall give his angels charge concerning thee, and in their hands they shall bear thee up, lest at any time thou dash thy foot against a stone. End quote. But there the poor Jesus was content to sit till my good master, perceiving from the nonsense he was talking, that his brain was beginning to swim, in pity to his danger, took him down. So the devil felt pity because JC was afraid to be up high on that mountain. That's what he's saying. So the devil took him down and saved Jesus, so the devil saved your Savior. What should have hindered, sirs, had my dread sovereign been the malignant being ye have been scandalously taught to think him. Okay, so, all right, y'all been brainwashed to believe that there's a devil and that he's wicked. And had feared a rival in the Galilean boy. All right, remember the law of opposites, the law of polarity. The devil is the sun in its highest place in the northern part of space, and then which is the summer solstice, and then the winter solstice, which is the devil at its most southerly part of space. The sun is at its lowest point in the south. Okay, that's what it's talking about, if you all remember that. So they are on opposite ends of the line, therefore that means they are opposites, or what? Opposers. Opposers are adversaries. So adversary of the Christ, adversary of the Galilean. But that he should have seized the young usurper by the nape of his neck with the grip of Hercules on Antiochus, and dashed him off or threw him off the mountain with the down to hell, and I say, and say, I sent thee thither. All right. I'm tired. Hold on. Oh. Okay. But was it so? No, nothing like that. And with your Christian justice, as if to show what is indeed the truth, that a thorough Christian never knew what justice meant. And I would have to agree with that. Absolutely. You have charged my sovereign Lord, that's a lowercase R-O-D, with every vice that you could think of, while you cannot prove against him a single imperfection. Is he the jealous God? Oh, uh-oh. So the scripture says that God is jealous. The scripture says that Zeus is jealous, that Aton, Amun-Ra, the magistrate, the Magi, are jealous. Well, is jealous. Same entity, right? Odin is jealous. Woden is jealous. Does it say that the devil is jealous? This is the author's point. There's no scripture that says that the devil is jealous. Okay? Is he the jealous God that would visit the sins upon the fathers, upon the children? Is he punishing children? Is the devil punishing children for what their father did? So the author, it looks like the author is assuming or presuming that that's wrong. Okay? Is the devil the child killer? In other words, God says, go into this city and kill all the children, kill everybody. So the devil is never presented as a child killer, according to the author. Must he have bloody sacrifices to perpetuate his own irritability or his own irritable temper? Oh, that's a good point. So this God, Zeus, Odin, this God demands that you sacrifice the life of a living animal. Cut his throat, drain his blood to make the God feel better about things you did. So the author is saying the devil never did that. The devil's not responsible for having animals killed because of something you did. And that's the only way you're going to make the devil feel better or to not punish you, is to kill an animal who didn't have anything to do with what you did. Animals, man, in his own business, ain't got nothing to do with you or the situation. But yeah, you're going to go get him and kill him? Right? That's the author is saying that that's not just. That's wrong. It's unnatural. Right? Now let's continue. So no, the devil doesn't require any of this stuff. The devil's not jealous. The devil doesn't kill children. Or the devil's not and doesn't demand that animals be sacrificed to appease him. Okay? So no, with loving kindness not to be surpassed, with generosity not to be equal, he takes me, his pupil, and as Milton, who was certainly inspired, if ever a man was, expressly assures us, set before him a banquet compared to which the intended feast of Gold Hall would have been but a banyan day. I'm going to stop there, y'all. I'm totally out of energy. Well, no. Let me read this poem. So here's the poem. We're on page 71. A table richie spread in regal mode, with dishes piled and meats of noble sort, and savor, fowl, and game. In pastry built, or from the spit, or boiled, all fish from the sea or shore, fishlet or purling brook, of shell or fin, an exquisite name for which was drained, Pontus the Lucrine Bay, the Afric coast, and at a stately sideboard by the wine, that fragment smelled diffused, in order stood, with fruits and flowers from out this horn. Oh my goodness. 2 more lines. And ladies of the Hesperides, more fair than thought could think, or love could wish them fair. All right, I'm glad that part is over. Okay, so the author is saying that the devil spread before him a feast. But this God is requiring you to watch out. Why? Because he's jealous. Because he kills children, right? And he also kills animals. Compared to the devil, who gives his followers a feast. So of course the author is being sarcastic here, because the devil is not a real person, but he's trying to get you to see or get you to understand what's happening in these stories. All right? Okay, so on the next, on the next 2 pages, you're going to find out that the devil is Christ and Christ is God. Okay, and so what Sonetta has been saying on Sonetta Studios, and what's his consort's name? So they're right about this. They're right about that. Okay, I'm too tired to keep going. I'll be back. So I'll see y'all shortly. Thanks again, everybody who subscribed to the 101 Ancient Ibaryath course. Everybody's welcome to come at Saturday, 10 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, to the 506 The Curses course. All right. Take a look in the description area of the video if you want to learn. It's a live Zoom class. All right. I want to say thank you to everyone who has supported my project to write the Book of the Law in modern English and Ancient Ibaryath to restore the natural law, constitutional principles, and of course the astronomy and the astrology. Y'all can look in the detail in the description of this video to get more details about the topics. All right, and then of course to remove all Jeremiah 8:8 occurrences, the lies and intentional deceit. All right, and even just what appear to be mistakes. Okay, and finally, thank you to everyone who has bought my books. And those of you who continue to buy my books, who bought more than once, I want to say a special thank you to all of you. That really helps me stay in good spirits and help me do what I do, because none of this is free, right? Even I come to a cafe right here, I've got to pay. Of course, I have subscription fees I need to pay for, platform fees. It's a lot involved. So the more support I get, eventually I will, when I get it, or if y'all provide it, I will get a studio, okay, and equip the studio, and that would be a whole lot better than me doing it the way I'm doing it right now. But anyway, I'll see y'all on the next one. I'm tired. I need to rest a little bit. All right. I don't have, as I used to say in my college days, I'm saturated. Islam to the Moors and Shalawama.